Well, actually, why don't we go ahead and get started? Dave has done this 4,000 times, so he knows the drill. And I'd like to welcome Anna to her first committee meeting. Well, at least with this group, I guess you are on, I forget, how many boards are you on again?
Now I'm on 8.
8, okay. I keep wanting to say a smaller number, like that can't be, that's too big. And then you keep surprising me with that number.
I know, it keeps going up.
Well, would love to hear any perspective you have about, I mean, certainly on, as this is the membership and operations side of things, we tend to talk a lot about the meta level of the group and where we can strengthen our representation, both in terms of geography, diversity, business types, industries, etc. So where you have seen some things that have worked well, or where you see concerns, please don't be shy. We are always looking to be challenged and challenge each other. So we're a small, but I would say a vocal committee here.
Okay, good to know.
It's also the easiest committee to be on because our scope of work tends to be small unless we're doing a major change in the bylaws or something, which today it's not too dramatic. So
you're not going to scare me away from my first meeting.
No, it's actually a lot of happy things today. So
oh, good.
Yeah. Lots of 3 members to put together, put in front of you guys. We'll skip roll call. We can see who's here and who's not here, and we'll add Dave to that. Any self-identification? I don't think with Dave not being here we have that issue. Okay. And the minutes were sent out in the packet from Tara a couple days ago. Any questions on what was sent out? Any updates or changes we need to make to that before we vote? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Nick, and a second?
I'll second it.
There we go. That easy here in this committee.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, passes unanimously. Well, sorry, any opposed? I didn't hear you, Nick, so.
Aye.
Yeah, okay. All right, motion passes. All right, next we have 3 new member nominations. So let me start with the overview first, and we can get into discussion about these candidates. The first in the agenda is Colleen Kirkpatrick. I met with Colleen about a week ago. So she is originally from Middletown, Ohio, very close to where I grew up. So we learned that we both went to the same elementary school, which is now a haunted house. So small world. And she joined Ethos Laboratory in Newport as their chief legal officer. I don't know if I'm saying that title correctly, but also their head of HR. She's also the only person of color in their leadership team, and but grew up in a white household. So very interesting perspectives that she was able to share with me during our intro meeting. So this is certainly great in terms of getting more representation on a number of factors that we talked about. We're always very light in Campbell County for whatever reason. So she is an enthusiastic, and Ethos is looking to get more involved in the community. Next is Mike Flannery, who is taking Chris Bateman's spot representing Amazon. Mike, we eventually got connected to Mike through kind of a back channel that I met through Leadership Northern Kentucky. He and Chris White and I were on a panel together, and he connected us to the right person. So we just were not talking to the right person, and once we got in front of the right person, very engaged. So Mike is enthusiastic about the WIB. Obviously, they're a major player in our area, and we want to make sure that we understand what their priorities are, and also that they listen to what others want and need from them. And then finally, Kara Brooks. She will be taking, or she's nominated to take Rhonda Whitaker. I feel like she changed her last name. Her spot. Rhonda was I believe, a chair of the WIB at one point, has been very involved in the WIB. Strong voice, but she was terming out and also just not as active. So we actually been looking to see how do we find someone from Duke who can bring a little more energy to that. So those are the three nominees. And our role as this committee is to approve them to move forward, that we would then present. They'll be presented to the executive committee first, but there's no vote in executive committee. The vote happens in the full WIB meeting, which takes place
July.
July. All right. And Katie Jo, is there an executive committee meeting tomorrow?
No, it got moved to July 6th, I want to say.
Oh, that's right. July.
No, I'm sorry, July 7th.
7th. Okay. And the full WIB meeting is on the 12th, the 13th. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Very good.
Right.
So the floor is open for discussion, questions.
I put a link in the chat to the actual meeting packet. I combined all the documents. And so if you click on there, you can, it's a PDF that you can scroll down to look at those nominations. I'm hoping you can scroll down. I'm always not trusting myself, but they're all on there.
No, from my perspective, these are all excellent nominees. We're very fortunate.
I agree. I'm really glad to hear about Amazon having a representative that wants to be engaged with the WIB, because I know with adult education, we're getting ready to start a statewide partnership with Amazon to try to encourage contingent hiring and then being required to get their GED in order to remain employed. So I think it's great.
Okay. That's interesting to hear. And I didn't realize this, or maybe I did see it in his LinkedIn, that Mike is based out of the Chicago area. So I don't know what that means in terms of if he's moving here or managing this remotely. But
So is that allowable though? As long as, I mean, do they have to? Is it allowable? Okay.
yeah, there's no conflict there. I would say this would have been an issue of concern in the past, pre-pandemic, when remote attendance was frowned upon for whatever
Yes.
reason. So we were already having those discussions pre-COVID about why does that matter, especially as we talk about the geography, the footprint that we represent.
Yes.
Well, it's a long drive if you're coming from the southern counties to come to a hour-and-a-half long WIB meeting that may not be as action-packed as you were hoping it to be as a member for a business member. So I think now we've learned that we can still be effective. So we'll have to see how we respond in a hybrid environment, but the world does that just fine. So I'm sure the WIB can as well. And I don't know anything about Kara. I've not had a chance to meet her, but I know that Rhonda was looking at 2 individuals and really trying to grooming people to be the more of a community face to Duke, so she can step back out of that spotlight. And I looked at Kara's LinkedIn profile this morning, and she's been there a while actually, so very young still, but has had several roles there.
I worked with her on the NKY Leadership Economic Development Day, and she's great. So we've been doing that together a couple of years now. So she's very energetic, and she can put those pieces together for us, I think, on not just locally, but on a state level too.
Okay, well, I'm going to make the suggestion that we actually vote on all of them together rather than individually. I don't think I haven't heard any objections to make me want to split this out. So can I get a motion to approve the member nomination slate as presented?
I'll move to approve.
A second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, passed unanimously. Excellent. Now that brings us up to the membership grid. I'm going to share my screen if I can. Can you enable that for me?
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Does that do it? I'm so bad at this.
It does it. Yep, we're good.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is what was sent out in the packet. I made one change, and that is this formula was ignoring Gina. I never say her last name right. Can you help me with that, Katie Jo?
I want to say Duluth, but that's not right either.
Okay.
I'm not
do
a
with
good-
that. Well, we'll just say Gina from Tank. For whatever reason, the formula was ignoring that. So with Gina, there are 35 total members. That puts us above the 51% threshold on the business side with these 3 additions. And Tara has already removed those members who have rolled off the board. So this is future state in its truest form. We are also exactly at our 20% in terms of workforce representatives. So we are in compliance, but we're just in compliance. And if we look to the right, hold on, let me, and I added this note, Katie Jo, that for whatever reason, Colleen was not shown as Campbell County.
Okay.
So we want to make note that we update that on the file on your server.
Actually, I'm doing it as we talk.
So let me hide this. The next time that we have to be concerned about people who are terming out is 12 months from today, or 12 months from around this time. And that is Michelle Tyson from Cummins, who was previously an officer, and Christy Henry. And I thought I saw another one. Yeah, Dana Dobbs. She's not highlighted red, but our outgoing chair. I believe that is it. No, and then we have a couple up on the top. We'll talk about them separately. So, so we do have to do some more intentional recruiting here to make sure that we stay within our requirements on this side. City, I mean, that's a conversation we can have with Dana pretty easily. I don't know if City was represented prior to Dana. Dana's been here since I've been a board member, so I don't know the history there. But they're a significant employer, obviously, and I would imagine would want to have some voice on that.
And then Christy Henry is from Grant County, so that is representing one of our rural counties. So again, I know Tara's been talking with Dr. Stafford about finding someone for Owen County.
Right.
But again, some more rural representation. Been on it as long as I've been here. So she was on it before with BB&T, and now she's with Heritage.
I see. Okay. And Tara has not shared any updates on her recruiting efforts on more of our southern or outlying counties. So I don't have anything to share on that side. Cummins is, other than Michelle, they're not all that active other than on, but I would say job fairs, they tend to be pretty active. So with the Career Center, I've seen them be involved. I don't know if there's someone within the organization that Michelle would want to nominate, or we'll need to continue to look at other pathways. I did not get any traction with Tier 1 performance solutions. Anna Wolf is their CFO, and she's kind of a president-like role. I was hoping she might be interested, but doesn't seem that way. So I've asked if she has anyone else in the organization. They would be a great company to have on the WIB because of their involvement in the community. So I will continue on that side. Are there any other suggestions of potential member candidates that are worth discussing today and trying to make some outreach to? Okay. Well, I will say that 12 months can go by very quickly on a WIB. So please continue to think who within your network or people that you know in your network who may know of companies that want to be more of a workforce champion on the business side. That would be important. Looking at the top of the spreadsheet, there are Janet Hare from NKU and Dr. Stafford. So what can you tell us here, Katie Jo, that may help us understand whether these need to be extended or someone else representing what they represent?
So Janet's on her third term, so we'd have to find someone else for NKU since they are such a economic engine. I do think we need to determine the best person there. Might be somebody within her division or her college, because I think her insight is really necessary for our bigger discussion and our data collection and really seeing how things are going, because we tend to forget some of the things that she sees. She sees things differently, and I think that's a benefit for all of us. Dave just came on. Hi, Dave. So I think it's a discussion to have with Janet to see if there's anyone that she would suggest within her college that helps her and works with her to provide that insight.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I thought I could get this on my phone, but the phone was not cooperating. Sorry.
Glad to have you.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
It's your last meeting, right?
It
For all
might
of
be.
Yeah.
It might be. Yeah.
Well, we are just to catch up to speed. We've already approved the minutes. We've already approved the candidate nominations for the 3 new board members. So it's Colleen Kirkpatrick from Ethos Labs down in Newport, Mike Flannery, who looks to be Chicago-based, but he's stepping up for Chris Bateman's role representing Amazon, and then Kara Brooks is going to be our face for Duke Energy, replacing Rhonda Whitaker.
Okay, great. Great. Kara's a good choice, I think.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we just looked at who else, who is going to be leaving the board. There are 3 in the next 12 months. It's Dana Dobbs, Christy Henry, and Michelle Tyson. So if we do not backfill those 3, then I'll just do that really quickly just to show what if we did nothing. Interesting. We'd actually be in a better position. All right. Oh, don't discourage. Don't let that be an incentive to not recruit the right people to the board. So now we're discussing on the higher ed and educational side, Janet Hara and Dr. Stafford. Their third term expires in 12 months. So I will reach out to Janet and find out if there's someone within her group, because of the analytics side of what they do is really critical. We would really want to make sure we have that voice directly on there.
And then also Dr. Stafford is in his third term. He represents education, but he is also a rural member. So I don't know about the other rural superintendents. That might be a discussion I have with Dr. Poe. Or do we not worry about the education and bring somebody else rural in for 2 new rural people in for workforce? I mean, for business. So it's that mix. But he is our only superintendent, so our only
Right.
high school representation.
Okay.
Well, I take that back. We have Dr. O'Hara also with Kenton County.
So there are a couple of superintendents that might work just as well. The superintendent from Winnings Verona might work out. Walton Verona. I can't put my name on his on my tongue right now, but he would be a great candidate. He's a little bit further out than Boone and Kenton, and they probably pull students from some of those other areas, but certainly not Owenston or Pendleton County.
And why do you mention him as a good candidate, Dave?
Well, I don't want to lose the educational component of the board. I thought it's been pretty strong over the last couple of, for a while. And I think it's a good balance. That's all.
Mhm.
I think Janet's input and impact on the board is significant.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, the fact that our meetings are going to be a little bit more hybrid in the future, and that's acceptable. Maybe it's an opportunity to go into Carroll County and talk to their superintendent or assistant superintendent, or I don't know their makeup there in the board office, but it could be another opportunity to expand in the Carroll County, since we hopefully will be doing that hybrid option will be for all of our meetings from now on.
Would this be a question to ask the council? Dave, is that an appropriate place to reach out as opposed to an individual superintendent?
I think the council might be a good start, both practically and politically, probably the best place to start. I don't know if it's where we'll end, John, frankly.
Yeah.
But I do think it's the right place to start. I worry a little bit about Carroll County, Katie Jo, only because it's so far out and it's actually outside of the Education Council. I don't believe they belong to that.
No, it's also outside of Gateway too.
I'm sorry, what?
It's also outside of Gateway. So they go JCTC. So again, I see your point on that. Both things, they go more to Louisville than they do up to Northern Kentucky on some of that stuff.
I know, but I will also point out that JCTC has been pretty innovative in my mind sometimes. So
I mean,
that's a good balance there potentially too.
yeah.
Well, ideally, we want someone who's willing to be engaged.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, but I want to say that, I don't know if it's Francis who has missed a lot of meetings, or no, he's attended.
I think it's similar. Those two are probably similar.
What's that, Katie Jo?
Attendance of Dr. O'Hara and Dr. Stafford are probably similar in percentage wise.
I know Dr. Stafford missed several meetings for a while. Francis has been hit or miss. You have the data there, John, so you can see that.
It looks like they're both probably 50%ers.
Yeah, that would
on their committee side, and then on the WIB, it's maybe 50% again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it kind of flip a coin in terms of their reliability or availability.
Yeah.
So, okay. And Dr. Poe is he's still a member. What is his role now?
He is executive director of the Education Council. He took over from Polly Page.
Okay, that's right.
And frankly, he's probably the most influential superintendent in Northern Kentucky. Even without leading the school right now, he still can help swing discussions.
Is he on the state superintendent board? He's doing something. He holds a state office, I thought, or a national office right now.
I don't know. I don't know, Katie Jo. it wouldn't surprise me if he was involved one way or another. But I just don't know the answer to that right now.
And I can't remember.
Okay. So it sounds like maybe starting a conversation with him on his perspective of how to look at Dr. O'Hara's position.
Yeah, right.
Okay, all right. Sorry, excuse me, Dr. Stafford. Yeah, okay. All right, I've got some marching orders on that. No problem. Attendance wise, we went through that in more granularity last meeting. I don't think it's really necessary this time. Was there a business services meeting yesterday?
There was a business service meeting last week. Unfortunately, I missed it. I was traveling, and Tara chaired, I think, for us. And primarily, if I recall, and I haven't seen the notes on it, it was a presentation from someone from the state. Is that correct, Katie Jo?
Yes, it is the 30 by 60 rule or whatever that new rule they're doing. I'm sorry, I cannot remember the exact thing, but it was basically how to get more people accreditations. I'm working on so many people having accreditations and by a certain year. And that's what it was.
60 by 30.
Yes, that's it. And it was a discussion of that. The interesting thing is they did have some projections of like growth and certification attainments. What I found interesting was all of our counties continue to go up, with our 3 urban counties being a lot higher than our lower ones, about a number wise, but Owen County went down. It was our only county that was projected to decrease in the number of attainments it received in the future. So that was pretty interesting on that. The other, that was like the big thing. We do have a PowerPoint of that. I think we were supposed to get, and I can forward to that. It is also, that meeting is also uploaded onto our Facebook page and our YouTube page.
Yeah.
If you want to watch it.
Okay, certainly.
But there again, that was very interesting to me. Just how many of those attainments are going to go up, how we look on the national level and within the state level, which were very consistent, except for that one change.
Okay. And then a reminder that the future committee meetings will all have new chairs. So you'll have a different attendance grid representing that new makeup. Okay, so that takes us to the strategic plan implementation and the creation of the DEI committee. So attached to the agenda was the updated vision mission statements, as well as the diversity, equity, inclusion statement. So actually I did not have a chance to talk to Tara what she wanted us to do in this committee relative to that. Do you know, Katie Jo?
That part I do not know. I thought she spoke with you about it, but basically when underneath that new strategic plan, we talk board governance, it's creation of the committee, the DEI committee comprised of board members and community members to report regularly to the board and oversee the DEI action plan, where the action plan is our statement and then our 5 core values restated. I think it's just trying to select those board members and community leaders that would be a good representation on that committee. And if anyone had any thoughts or ideas about who to add to that or who to ask to sit on that.
And just to bring others into sort of the back discussions of how we got here, there was I guess, a lot of discussion about, is this a standing committee? Is this a setup committee? What is the right way to move forward on this? So certainly when you look at the language, it's set up as a standing committee, so an additional committee to the WIB.
Correct. At least it's not going to go away, but you know, in the future, it might not be. I think it's adaptable. I don't. But yeah, right now, making sure that we have the DEI for not just our clients or customers at the KCC, but employers, job seekers, and then also the board, our board itself, which we're already kind of doing that.
Okay. So I guess let's try to take a holistic approach to this without very specific action items. The board governance section that's in the packet highlights 3 major bullet points. The first of which is to create the committee. And so we have been the nominating committee and looking at who's a good person to fit in these committees. I guess in this case, I'm somewhat reluctant to throw names out there because I don't know who's really passionate about this work.
What do you think, John, if I could just interrupt, what do you think about, what would be some of the attributes that you would think might be, make a successful committee member? What attributes are we looking for? My thought would be, certainly, I'd like to have a particularly strong, larger business partner that may have a pretty business D&I support already inside that business, and then maybe a smaller business owner looking at it at a different angle. I just think that the more that we can get some diversity in our committee members from their viewpoints and from their background, I think the stronger the committee will be all the way around. Certainly, I think passion is certainly important, but if we have a larger business that's got established D&I roles, it might help us bridge some gaps or at least see where our gaps are.
And that's also, I think, why that language is so specific about saying board members and others, community members.
That's true. That's true.
Nick, what DPL created a diversity committee, did they not, about a year ago?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you tell us what where you are in that journey as a firm?
Yes, so it's actually now known as the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And really internally, we have, I think, 2 main objectives. One is hiring and recruitment and trying to bring more diverse candidates on board. And then the other component would be, I don't want to say, excuse me, along the lines of education, awareness type activities, just to maybe make folks aware of issues that they wouldn't otherwise be privy to in the community. And it really kind of kicked off last year, during the summer, when these issues kind of came to the forefront, and folks who maybe weren't thinking about them previously now were.
Okay. So I wonder, in a case like that, are you involved with that committee directly?
I personally am not, no.
So I think that's a good example of where there may be a company that's involved with the WIB, but the board member is not directly. So how can we leverage the work that's going on at those companies and invite some more of that expertise or firsthand experience with that journey into those conversations? So Dave, how might we go about doing something like that? Should we consider doing a survey of our members to ask who has that, and trying to get a better idea of who's already involved with this?
I think if we did a quick survey of companies that have established D&I programs and a quick survey of folks that are passionate about it or are already involved or want to become more involved,
Mhm.
I think that'll give us a good beginning membership. But I want to go back to what you said, and I'm glad you brought it up. We could go outside our circle, so to speak, and reach into some community partners that might have some really good best practices or thought starters for us to start. One of the ones that might be easily attainable would be somebody like a Brighton,
Mhm.
a Life Learning Center. Those kinds of folks may have people that aren't initially with the WIB, so to speak, but could have strong, strong desire to make that successful, so to speak. And then I think having Katrina, it's Katrina, right? Is that right?
Katrina?
Katrina, yes.
Mhm.
As a lead, she may have some real good starting points also outside of our circle.
Mhm.
And
Have
then,
we ever taken a look at like any databases, like for example, Dun and Bradstreet, I think is one of them, where we might be able to look at a list of companies that are in our region. And it gives all kinds of data, like how many people work there, what industry they're in. I'm pretty sure through the cabinet, we have access to that database. It may be a good starting point if we're really trying to broaden our scope, if you will, of members and people involved. Just something to think about.
that's a good idea. It is. Would we have to have that on a subscription with DMB or?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, they want their money, but I think what we could do is we could work through the state. If I can, go down and talk to our employer and apprenticeship services team that are in the same cabinet and I am, they already have access to it, and I'm sure they would share it within the cabinet.
Yeah, that's a good
I
idea.
can certainly look into that, no problem.
Yeah, I'm wondering too if other organizations have already, like the chamber or others who've
Mhm.
made contact and have begun moving this issue forward, helping to identify some interested parties to help with this discussion.
For the
Yeah, I
chamber,
know the Kentucky Chamber has their talent pipeline management program, and they've got representatives all over the state in different regions and have met with business and industry about several different types of things.
Mhm.
I could reach out to them as well to see if they've already done some of this legwork for us. And we could just get that information from them. That's a great idea.
I
Okay.
know our chamber and the Triad has their own equality and diversity statement right now. I do not know how
Oh,
that point. They do have that. I also think that when we think of the board and a committee doing this, we have the opportunity to bring people in. They might not need to sit on the board on the committee, but best practices, how'd you do it, and have an opportunity for speakers to come in. So it might not be a large CE committee, but one that gets pulls from other people and listens and reaches out to people who are already doing, companies who are already doing it.
Yeah. The only point I want to add to what you guys have said is it might be good to see if we can reach across the river also for some of these folks. That might help quite a bit.
in that regard, let's be clear about what is it, there's an action plan that is meant to be the outcome of this committee, or the initial work product of this committee. But for whom exactly? I mean, we've talked about the WIB and representation and making sure that we have perspectives in these discussions. But are we looking to do more than that? Because if we want to look at something that, like initiatives that are happening across the river, there are some really strong initiatives that are happening there that are not happening in Northern Kentucky. So is that what we're trying to do as a WIB, or is that outside of our scope of work?
Um,
What,
John, those are good. Those are great questions. I think I brought the need to reach across the river only after we've established what our goals are going to be as part of that committee. I think everything you said is absolutely correct, but I also don't want to shortcut the committee's role and what they have to do first to get started, right? But once they decide their goals and their targets and their direction, I think that's when we start looking at the outside members and maybe potentially where those members should come from. But I do think that that's Christina's first step, is to decide some of those targets.
Yeah, we've been looking at this from such a high level in terms of vision and mission. I have not really been thinking about this under the view of my sleeves rolled up and what does that look like?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have an executive meeting coming up on tomorrow. Is that right?
It's not tomorrow, it's July
Oh, is it July?
9th, I believe, or no, sorry. I'm
Yeah.
looking at June, July 7th. And I will not be attending that. That's 9:30 at night where I'll be, so not a good fit.
You can stay up late, John. It's okay.
Well, I mean, I might dial in, I said, so.
I feel like that's prime dinner time wherever you're going though.
Well, I mean, I have one-to-one coaching meetings at that same time on other days, so it's not still my work day, but
Yeah.
board meetings are a little different story.
I think as an MBO, I think it might be good to just send a message. It's time to roll up the sleeves, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think that's what MBO should really only be saying, frankly.
And I see it as as John said, micro versus macro view. And so we've done the big view. Now we gotta get down to the smaller view of it. And that's going to be the nitty gritty.
Maybe, but I don't want to shortcut the committee chair, right?
So actually, I didn't even look at that before this meeting. The change that's in this, is that in addition, is that a change in the bylaws already or not?
No, it's not we can add committees no matter what at any time. We're not creating it doesn't have to be in the bylaws. Doesn't have to be a change to the bylaws to create a committee like this. So it'd be an ad hoc committee technically. We would, unknowing what Tara wants to do on this, where it would fit underneath the framework, our existing committees, would it fall underneath, says here report to the board. So would it fall under the executive committee and then to the full board? That part I cannot answer. Would it be program youth or business services? I just don't know that right now.
I just want to make sure that if we do land on a committee chair, that we go through the right protocols to make sure that that's compliant.
But any committee can make a subcommittee, ad hoc committee, whatever you want to call it, per the bylaws. I'm
Right.
saying that, I'm like, I'm 99% sure. I've read those a lot recently.
Okay. I'm just thinking about who was on the strategic planning committee, and if any of those members had expressed an interest in being the chair of that. I don't believe so. Okay.
No, no one has.
So I'd be happy to connect with Katrina, since I was the one who encouraged her to move forward as either a chair or an officer, and understand if this is something that she, how would she like to be involved in this, and if she'd like to be involved in this. But your point's well taken, Dave, that this is not our job to define all this. I just want to make sure that we're bringing the right people together for the initial phase, and to allow them to move forward and really do the work on their own. Okay. Any other thoughts related to this topic before we move on? All right. And then there's a spot here for new business. I do not have any myself. Anyone have any things they would love to share with us for the good of the group? Any challenges you're hearing from, what's the word on the street?
Frankly, it's kind of quiet on my side, John. I'll be honest. I'm almost 100% retired, so my biggest step in the morning is to look at the emails, all 5 or 6 of them, instead of the 200.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. The street is quiet on my side.
Well, I will only say that the issue of workforce only is getting more amplified, but I feel like that's always been true no matter what the economy is doing. So I have somewhat of a not jaded view of this, but it's these are not new issues. They're just new twists on an ever-present issue. So
yeah. I will say that I just got back from 2 weeks in New Mexico. We just got back last night. The employment situation in Kentucky is no different than any other place in the US. They're all suffering from lack of skilled workers, or workers that want to take a job for a lower pay. So living wage seems to be a discussion across the country right now. So I'm glad that we've been involved with that conversation for quite a while. I'm disappointed we haven't begun to solve it, but that might be a huge task, frankly.
mm-hmm.
But I will say that we're in the thick of things. The dialogue that the WIB is having is no different than what I've seen across at least the Western states.
Mm-hmm. I'll say, from the perspective of working with so many different companies and CEOs from different companies in the peer groups that I facilitate and the coaching that I do, there's grumbling about the increase in wages, but for the most part, people are making changes because they recognize there's opportunities, and if they don't raise their overall wages and hire people in a competitive environment, they'll never achieve those targets. So I don't see people sitting on the sideline for the most part. I see them adapting to the current market and moving forward, and not stressing about it too much, frankly. They're more worried about supply chains, especially in manufacturing, than they are about people. So, and I think it'll be really interesting too to see how does this fall look in terms of workforce development programs like internships, co-ops, all the work-based learning sides of things that more or less disappeared during COVID because of lack of access, and people sort of scaling back and pulling back from those opportunities. So I hope that there's true, really strong engagement, and we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, like I said, Anna, easy meeting today. So I've got a number of homework items for myself. And my ask simply is just continue as you think about companies that you interface with, especially in the areas that we are underrepresented in terms of either geography or industry. Who might be a good voice to have on the WIB. So thankfully we have quite a few new members that are all, many of them in their first term. And so we don't have a big issue of a cliff of having to worry about upcoming. And I also think that our change in terms of adding people based on their meeting date that they join and not based on sort of a fiscal year start has also minimized where we have these really big hurdles to overcome. So feeling a lot more positive about the health of the WIB
Mhm.
relative to years past. Okay. Well, with that, I'll call the meeting to adjournment and looking forward to seeing you all on July 13th at the full WIB meeting.
All right.
Katie Jo, can you please send me the invite? I'm not getting the invites to the meetings.
We'll figure that out.
Email from me.
I actually, and I don't think anyone's gotten the invite for that meeting yet.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have it either. So we want to make sure that we get all the new fiscal year calendar invites out, Katie Jo.
Yes, and Tara's starting that, and I will check with her actually and get back to you all on that, and we'll go from there.
But to just make sure you can block your calendar, it's July 13th from 8:30 to 10.
Okay.
And
Thank
I might
you.
go, and if anything, I might just go ahead and do a invite just for that July meeting. So we can get that out, and then when she comes back, she can send them out.
That would be good.
Great.
Hey, Katie Jo, can you stay on for a second? Are you the host?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind, I want to ask you a question outside of the MBO.
All right, well, let's stop the recording and
Yeah.
thanks all. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.